In a previous video, I covered off note values, time signatures and bar lines as well. In this video, what I want to do is actually dive into what notes look like on the stave. First thing I want to cover is what is a stave or a staff. It's a really familiar thing. If you've seen the music written at all, you'll know what a stave is, but let's just kind of dive into it. So basically, if you've seen this on a page of music, that's the stave. That's about as exciting as it gets. It doesn't matter what the clef is, and we'll cover clefs later, but there's always going to be 5 lines and 4 spaces. Depending on the clef at the start of it will dictate what the pitches are, but again, we'll cover that in another video. Today, I just want to cover what notes look like and what they should look like on the stave. When you're reading music, it's really important that it's clear on the staff, and especially when you're writing it as well. Things are difficult enough without having to try and figure out, just have a look at it really closely. So if we have a look at what we've got the 5 lines and the 4 spaces that's familiar to everyone. I've got the note values along the bottom here that I covered in the other video. And what needs to be done when you're writing or when people are printing music is that the notes need to be really clear. So if you're wanting a space note, they have to be in the space. There can be no, we can't have this. All right, that just leads to confusion. I've got no idea what note that could be. That could be any one of 3 notes, to be fair. Right? Whereas the first one, it's really clear what that note would be. If I take that out. And the same goes for if it's a line note. It needs to make sure that the line goes right through the middle of the note, and it's there's an equal amount of note, if you like, on either side of the line. When you write music, I was kind of lazy there because I used semi-breves, which is pretty typical of me, to be fair. Then you need to be aware of the stem direction and also the stem side. Now the stem is, if I just draw this in, basically this is the stem here, this bit. The stick, if you like, that goes up in these pictures, but they can go down also. Now, there's a very important part, an indicator on what direction the stem should go in, and that's this middle line here. All right. Okay. So when we write music and it's below that middle line, and if I take a minimum, for example, and then the direction of the stem has to be up the way. Now we don't want the stem to be too long. We don't want to do this and go right out the top of the page. That's just, it's untidy. But yeah, just about that sort of length is perfect. Now if I write a note above the line, then the stem comes down the way. Of course, the question is, what happens if you get a note on the line? Well, I generally just follow either the notes that it's come from. So if I change this note to be a quaver and the stem was down, I would just do it that way, like that. All right. The final point I want to cover about stems is what side to put them on. Now, generally I just make it quite easy. What I do is, if you're below the line and the stem is going up the way, then it looks like a D. And if you're above the line and the stem is coming down the way, then it looks like a P. This is wrong. That makes me feel weird. And this would be wrong as well. All right, so let's get rid of them before I'm sick. If you're finding the information this useful, then if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. If you've got any comments or questions, please just fire them in below and I'll get back to you. Last thing I'd like to go over is what do we do if the note values are outside of the staff that we've been talking about? So it would be really restricted, really. If we could only work between the top line and the bottom line and use the 4 spaces and the lines in between, then we wouldn't be able to use that many notes. There's a load of other notes that we can use that are outside of that. And the thing that we use for that are called ledger lines. You can think of a ledger line, it's almost like a temporary thing that's just shoved in for the sake of that note that's wanting to be played. So, for instance, if I was writing some notes here and I wanted to go down the way, this would be fine, this would be fine. However, if I wanted a lower note than that, I need something to tell me what it is. Otherwise, it just looks like a note floating in mid-air. Okay, and as I said, what we use is a ledger line that just goes through the middle. Now, the next note
if we go back into the kind of stave area, then that wouldn't need a ledger line, so we just stop using it. Okay, and that's all there is for notes on the stave really. There's not a great deal to it. Again, if you've got any questions, just let me know. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.